talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay. Won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne. I'm coming for the throne. So you wanna be my enemy? You should've known I'd never kiss the rain. Ice runs in my veins, won't play it safe. I don't belong with your nobility. Who died and made you king of anything? You think that I'm insane, it's your mistake. Kingdoms rise and fall, I've come to take it all. I'll take it, I've come to take it. Kingdoms rise and fall, I've come to take it all. I'll take it all. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne. I'm coming for the throne.
and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found, but you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air like a blazing flare. Just stare, cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me, that's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me, hold your hand while the pain was over, keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me. Like shadows in the atmosphere, charting the stratosphere. Yeah. I prayed for you and kept you near in hopes you'd chase away my fears. I'm on my own, you made it so, and now I'm chasing nightmares. I used to run with you through the great big leaves, laugh at you when you laugh at me, hope for us because I believe the home was just you and me. I thought you were the one for me, that's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh, I thought you were the one for me, that's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, you meant the world to me. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh, I'm gonna do this on my own. No point in blaming you, you did not know. I thought you were the one for me, that's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me.
'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see that I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see that I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see that I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see that I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see that I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see that I'm shining? 'Cause when you're with me, baby, don't you see.
damit einen wunderschönen guten Abend und herzlich willkommen Luzern, Lugano, Lausanne, Basel und Zürich. The Digital Swiss 5, eine Weltpremiere, das hybride Radrennen mit den Topstars, mit den Profis aus Straßenradsport, aus Bikesport, aus dem Triathlon hier in der Saalsporthalle Zürich. Und ja, die Teamkolleginnen und Teamkollegen von Ihnen sind zum Teil auf der ganzen Welt noch mit dabei und auf der ganzen Welt noch am Start, wo auch immer Sie derzeit trainieren oder zu Hause sind. Also die Kombination aus beidem, die Kombination aus Live-Sport hier in der Saalsporthalle Zürich und Live-Sport, Live-Leiden auf der Plattform ROUVY auf der heutigen Strecke in Luzern machen das Ganze aus. Und damit wir uns einstimmen können auf das heutige Rennen, gibt es ein paar Bilder von der Digital Swiss 5 Premiere April 2020 auf den Strecken der Tour de Suisse. Eine fantastische Premiere im April 2020 auf den Straßen der Tour de Suisse, The Digital Swiss 5. Und von den Straßen der Tour de Suisse geht's hier in die Saalsporthalle und damit heute auf die Strecke von Luzern. An dieser Stelle herzlich willkommen André Burri aus dem Marketingdepartement von Luzern Tourismus. Den werden wir nachher am Abschluss des Abends auch zur Siegerehrung noch sehen. Ja, und in der Saalsporthalle Zürich jetzt die Vorbereitungen für Luzern. Vielleicht gibt es gleich schon ein bisschen mehr Licht. Schauen wir mal, wie sie sich vorbereiten. Mittlerweile sind beinahe alle Rollen hier bei ROUVY besetzt. Das Warm-up, meine Damen und Herren, für ein, ich glaube, heißes Rennen, für eine heiße Auftaktetappe durch Luzern. 11,8 Kilometer hat die Runde heute, 62 Höhenmeter. Bei 4 Runden maximal 10% Steigung, also auch das wird das Feld potenziell ein wenig durcheinander rühren. 47,2 Kilometer, heute die längste Etappe von The Digital Swiss 5 hier zum Auftakt. Also, Sie sehen es, das Warm-up läuft, die Vorbereitungen laufen und wir werden sicherlich noch gleich den ein oder anderen Fahrer auch vor der Etappe vor dem Rennstart sehen. Wir werden auch, meine Damen und Herren, wenn denn alles klappt, den ein oder anderen Fahrer daheim sehen. Denn die Teams, die hier mit dabei sind, für Luzern, Lugano, Lausanne, Basel und Zürich, für unsere Host Cities, sind nicht komplett hier. Eben, ihre Teamkolleginnen und Teamkollegen sind digital dabei. Im Moment liegen noch keine Bilder von draußen vor, also sie haben sich einfach noch nicht zugeschaltet, aber die Rollen sind aktiv, also auch sie werden nachher mit ins Rennen gehen und ich bin mir sicher, während des Rennens gibt es dann natürlich nicht nur Bilder aus der Saalsporthalle, sondern auch aus der Welt, aus den Wohnzimmern, aus den Garagen, wo auch immer Sie auf Ihren ROUVY-Rollen unterwegs sind. Ja, und wir wollen natürlich gleich mal schauen, wo sind wir denn heute unterwegs? Lassen die Damen und Herren noch ein bisschen fahren und machen dann gleich einen kurzen Ausflug in Richtung Luzern, in unsere Gastgeberstadt, der Auftaktetappe von The Digital Swiss 5. Fantastische Bilder aus einer fantastischen Gastgeberstadt für die heutige Auftaktetappe. Wie gesagt, 11,8 Kilometer ist die Runde lang, die uns die Kolleginnen und Kollegen von ROUVY gezaubert haben. Denn das ist das Fantastische an ROUVY. Man fährt nicht in digitalen Welten, man fährt ganz real, wird dann digital hineingebeamt in eine ganz reale Welt. Und das zeichnet die Plattform ROUVY aus. Wir werden also gleich auf einer ganz echten Strecke durch Luzern fahren. Und um uns auch darauf einzustimmen, ein Blick auf ROUVY, auf diese Plattform, die Etappen der Tour de Suisse nach Hause bringt, die schönsten Schweizer Städte nach Hause bringt und natürlich die spannendsten und schönsten Anstiege der Welt vom Mont Ventoux bis zu den Alpenpässen der Schweiz. Also ROUVY, die perfekte Plattform für ganz viel Radsportspaß und Sie haben es vielleicht im Clip schon gesehen und wir werden es natürlich gleich auch live erleben. Perfekt, nicht nur zum Training und für Rennen daheim, sondern perfekt, sich auch über die Welt, über die Kontinente mit anderen zu matchen, mit anderen zusammenzutun, mit anderen zu fahren, ob um die Wette oder im Team, das Ganze auf realen Strecken über diese Plattform von ROUVY. Also wir freuen uns auf die Auftaktetappe Luzern, freuen uns auf 3 Radsport-Feiertage hier in der Saalsporthalle Zürich und natürlich virtuell in Luzern, Lugano, Lausanne dann morgen und zum Finale Basel und Zürich. Ja, und einen Feiertag haben die Organisatoren dieses Events in dieser Woche bereits gehabt. Das Team von Cycling Unlimited, das ja für diese Digital Swiss 5 verantwortlich ist und natürlich unter anderem auch für die Tour de Suisse, denn sie dürfen einen neuen Top-Sponsor, einen neuen Titelsponsor der Tour de Suisse präsentieren und wir freuen uns natürlich, dass er auch hier heute mit dabei ist und sagen ein herzliches Willkommen an Primeo Energy.
Mehr Liebe Velo, du auch. Mitmachen und tolle Preise gewinnen.
Der Primeo Energy Boost und den, meine Damen und Herren, den finden Sie übrigens auch hier in der Saalsporthalle. Das Leckerli, Basler Leckerli mit Gewinnchance. Mitmachen und gewinnen, also Energy Boost holen und über den QR-Code, der auf diesen Leckerli abgedruckt ist, könnt ihr gewinnen, können Sie gewinnen, unter anderem VIP-Tickets für die Tour de Suisse 2022 und wir würden uns natürlich freuen, viele von Ihnen, von euch dort wiederzusehen. Sagen an dieser Stelle Danke auch den anderen Partnern und Sponsoren, die diese Veranstaltung, diese Weltpremiere, diesen hybriden Rad-Event mit Topstars live vor Ort, mit Topstars auf der Welt vernetzt hier möglich machen. Natürlich der langjährige Top-Partner der Tour de Suisse. Danke an dieser Stelle noch einmal für viele, viele Jahre fantastischer Partnerschaft an Vaudoise. Wir sagen Danke an unseren Presenting-Sponsor gemeinsam mit den Etappenstädten. Danke an Schweiz Tourismus, an Luzern, Lugano, Lausanne, Basel und Zürich. Wir danken natürlich APG SGR, Core. Wir kommen nachher noch darauf zu sprechen, auf die neue Technik, die Einzug hält in den Radsport, in den Spitzensport. ROUVY, natürlich unsere Plattform. Wir freuen uns über die Partnerschaft und Unterstützung von Factor, Dye, Mushroom, die Supportpartner. Natürlich Swisslos, der Kanton Zürich ist mit dabei. Dann das Schul- und Sportamt der Stadt Zürich, die Medienpartner Blick und Radio Zürichsee und dann Ticketmaster als der offizielle Ticketpartner dieser Veranstaltung, präsentiert von Cycling Unlimited, The Digital Swiss 5 2021. Ja, was erwarten wir? Wir haben es gesagt, also ab 20 Uhr die erste Etappe, 41 Kilometer, knapp 42 Kilometer durch Luzern. Wie wird das Ganze aussehen? Also wir haben die Athletinnen und Athleten hier aufgeteilt in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Teams. Sie sehen die Aufstellung, Sie sehen jeweils die Städtemarken, werden gleich mit Ihnen natürlich noch auf die Teams, auf die Besetzung der Teams, auf die Aufstellung der Teams schauen. Es geht zunächst einmal um den Etappensieg. Ganz klar, wir sind beim Radsport und ganz klar, wer als Erste, wer als Erster in der Kategorie, also Männer, Frauen im Ziel ist, der hat gewonnen, der ist Etappensieger. Dazu, Radsport ist Teamsport, das gilt auch für Digital Swiss 5, gibt es die Mannschaftswertung. Also 5 Teams sind hier am Start, 3 Fahrerinnen und Fahrer einer jeden Mannschaft hier bei uns vor Ort, plus die 2 bzw. 3 Fahrer, die daheim mitfahren. Für diese Fahrerinnen und Fahrer gibt es Punkte, und zwar 15 an der Zahl für den schnellsten Mann, 14 für den zweiten, 13 für den dritten und so weiter. Das gleiche gilt für die Damen, 15 für die Siegerin, 14 für die zweite und so weiter. Und die besten 2 Fahrer pro Team kommen in die Wertung bei den Männern und die beste Fahrerin bei den Damen. Dafür gibt es Punkte, die werden addiert und das Ganze gibt dann die Teamwertung. Und die fließt auch in die Gesamtwertung ein, in die Gesamtwertung dieser Digital Swiss 5. Also, das so viel zur Technik und zum Ablauf. Thema Technik, wir bräuchten hier nochmal irgendjemanden, der sich auskennt, denn wir haben immer noch hin und wieder den Blackout auf dem Screen. Und ansonsten bereiten wir uns vor auf die Auftaktetappe Digital Swiss 5, werden die Fahrerinnen und Fahrer jetzt natürlich im Vorfeld noch einmal ganz genau unter die Lupe nehmen, ihnen die Aufstellungen, die Teams vorstellen und ich glaube, den einen oder anderen, die ein oder andere auch noch mit Fragen löchern zur Vorbereitung dieser Auftaktetappe für Digital Swiss 5 in der Saalsporthalle Zürich.
top-class cycle racing with online gaming and on-site entertainment. It's a high-octane package set to test the athletic limits of top-class professional racers from the worlds of road racing, mountain biking and triathlon. We've also got some highly trained amateurs set to test themselves against the pros on the 11.8 kilometre Lucerne circuit, created for us by game designers ROUVY, whose real video route experience has brought a new dimension to the world of cycle trainer gaming. We're just, coming up on just under 15 minutes away from the first of 5 races this weekend, with riders getting set to race for individual honours and also as part of 5 different teams named for 5 different Swiss cities. Riders will be representing the likes of Basel, Lausanne, Lugano, Lucerne and Zurich teams today. Each team will have 3 representatives here in the Salzhalle, with other team members racing in remote locations. It's mixed team racing, up to 6 riders per team, and the leading 2 male riders and the leading female riders will earn points for their team to decide the winning squad in each race. Well, there's a lot to learn and a lot to take in as we get set to meet the riders, which include, among them, the UCI Esports World Champion Jason Osborne, resplendent in his rainbow stripes as he gets set to race alongside Boris Stein and Laura Chacon, and indeed others at home for the Basel team. Triathlon hero Hayden Wild from New Zealand is here today, a bronze medalist indeed at the Olympics not so long ago. Austrian Grand Tour stage race star Hermann Pernsteiner, those two are on the Lugano squad. Former world road champion Marta Bastianelli is at home and racing for Lucerne. Corn Lebecki is a name to conjure with as well. She's racing remotely, but I think we've just about caught up with Marlon Reusser, the heroine of Swiss cycling at the moment. She's a national champion, she's an Olympic and world medalist as well. And I think Stefan has caught up with her down in Track Center.
Ja, meine Damen und Herren, und wir haben Ihnen ja versprochen, den ein oder anderen möchten wir natürlich vor diesem Rennen hier noch zu Wort kommen lassen. Und ja, was liegt näher, als mit der olympischen Silbermedaillengewinnerin zu beginnen? So, let's talk a little bit with some of the athletes, and we promised, well, to start with the Olympic silver medalist from Tokyo. Welcome, good evening, Marlon Reusser. So I guess normally the November is a little bit of off-season. So you're looking forward for 1 hour suffering?
I'm looking forward to suffer 5 hours. Yes.
So you are prepared. What about cycling on home trainer? It's quite normal training or, well, not as used for you?
No, I really try to avoid it so far, but maybe I will discover something new. And it's my first time I do something in the digital world in cycling.
So the world's first hybrid race, and for you as well, the first. We're looking forward to see you racing. You checked the track from today, the 11.8K of this lap?
Honestly, no. I'm confused what we're gonna do actually, but I'll just see because it's 4 laps. So I have 1 to check and then let's see.
But in every case, you are prepared. Thank you so much, and well, we are looking forward to see you on this track of Lucerne. Also, meine Damen und Herren, wir haben es gehört, es ist ja nicht nur Neuland für uns, diese hybride Veranstaltung, sondern auch für die Silbermedaillengewinnerin von Tokio. Es ist ihr erstes Rennen in dieser Form. Sie meidet die Rolle ein wenig, aber vielleicht gewinnt sie ja mit uns eine ganze Menge Spaß an dieser Geschichte und wird dann auch künftig mehr unterwegs sein auf dem Heimtrainer. Wir lassen uns überraschen. Marlon Reusser, danke und viel Spaß.
Politics as well, and she's a very inspiring character. If you're not familiar with Marlon Reusser, well, you certainly ought to be, and it's well worth doing a little bit of research on the internet. Jason Osborne's in there as well. I mentioned the 27-year-old from Mainz. He's taking part with the Basel team. I'll run through some of the names on the various squads as we get an opportunity a little bit closer to the start of the action. But just to remind you, we've got 27 pro racers for teams of between 5 and 6 riders, 5 teams in total. It is a team competition. It's the top 2 male team times and the top woman rider will be those that are scoring for each of those teams. put it all together, amalgamate it, see who comes out of the pot. And of course, we've got an individual winner from amongst the men and the women as well. Other names to conjure with: Mara Schmidt from the Lausanne squad is also racing here in the hall. The Team Quebec next hash rider heading off to Quick Step next year. Other names to conjure with: Hayden Wild, as I mentioned, Herman Pernsteiner. Hannah de Vet is an up-and-coming triathlete from Belgium here in the hall today. Zuzana Zafarova is a Czech rider, a mountain bike emerging star. Races with the ROUVY specialised team in her host nation, home nation indeed, and second in the Czech National Mountain Bike Championships. Also in the hall today, Jakub Kadlec, another Czech rider on that squad. Connie Loser is an MTB rider, a trained roofer among other things, and it's his very first online race, so he shares that with Marlon Reusser. There's a lot to learn, I think, for a lot of these rides. Martin Van Riel, he's an interesting rider, triathlete, 28-year-old Belgian, and another rider who has performed with great distinction at Olympic level in the triathlon. Nina Deron, another tri-rider. She's local, she's from Zurich, 28-year-old triathlon competitor who's at home indeed in the Ironman competition. And they have remotely, the Lucerne squad have Marta Bastianelli and, as I mentioned, also Mavi Garcia, her teammate on the road, although they are in very remote locations. It's all fascinating, isn't it? We're in Zurich, half the riders are in various other remote locations around the world, and we're going to race in Lucerne today on this ROUVY platform. I'll take you through the route very, very shortly. The other names of the riders here in the hall tonight: Adrian Biffer, the triathlete, is also local to us at the moment. Gino Mader, as I've mentioned. Hopefully, I think we can catch up with Gino very, very shortly. 24-year-old Swiss rider from Flaville on the Bahrain Victorious squad, stage winner in Giro d'Italia of late. Marlon Reusser we've already been introduced to, and they are racing with remotely located Reto Hollenstein, Swiss rider, 36-year-old Swiss domestique, racing for the team honours today. And Zgabu Grumey, the 30-year-old Ethiopian rider, Team Bike Exchange just announced that they've extended his contract by a couple of years, so he's excited about that and going to see if he can test his mettle in this fascinating new concept. It is 5 different races across 3 days of racing action. This is the first of them. We'll have 2 tomorrow and then another 2 on Sunday to conclude the race action. We'll take you through the route very shortly. We're just coming up on 7 minutes to the start of the race. So we're not that far away from getting underway for a total of just over 47 kilometers of racing. It's 11.8 kilometers, the circuit. It's pretty much flat with a little bit of a bump along the way, which I think will be an opportunity to separate the wheat from the chaff. The very strongest riders from those hanging on in the draft and trying to race in the slipstream to glory. Is this going to be one for the sprinters? Is this going to be one for those that can detach themselves and go for something a little bit more like a time trial effort? We'll have cameras on the riders that are racing remotely as well and try and bring you as much of the flavour of the suffering and exactly what they're going through across this 1 hour of racing effort. The riders, many of them have been in the hall. Gino Mader, they're just warming up, and they're through the warm-up procedure now, and they've done, well, a hectic amount of riding on their home trainers already to this point in the proceedings, various different rehearsals and warm-up procedures during the day. So a few of those riders, I think, will be feeling it already as we get set to get into it very shortly.
Doch, was Mader zu sagen hat. So, let's talk to another Swiss athlete, Gino Mader. So, ready for a race?
I think as ready as you can be on November, Friday evening, but I'm looking forward.
I hope we will have a party with you, but 1 hour in Lucerne, 1 hour on the power meter, it's not really a party. Did you ever a race like this?
I had the fun to be at the start also of the first Digital Swiss 5. I think some of these power records still stand today, and I really don't looking forward to reproduce them.
Also er war natürlich mit dabei bei der Premiere der Digital Swiss 5 auf den Strecken der Tour de Suisse. Er sagt, einige seiner Powerrekorde stehen noch heute und ja, er weiß nicht genau, ob die heute fallen werden, beziehungsweise er weiß nicht genau, ob er sich darauf freuen kann, diese Rekorde zu toppen, denn ja, Rolle heißt auch immer leiden. So on the ROUVY platform, cycling means in a race suffering as well. We're looking forward to see you, Gino. Good luck.
As much as possible. We're now within the final 3-minute countdown to this event. I think I've already mentioned that it's real-time videos that we use on the ROUVY platform. It's a fascinating concept, really. They have videoed the entire circuit, and it's the riders that scroll their way through the route that is. Well, it's going to be taking the riders from the Seebrücke in Lucerne, then heading along Lake Lucerne, reaches the Swiss Museum of Transport after a short while, then past the Hofkirche Leodegger, an extraordinary piece of architecture. I'll take you through the course very shortly. Let's hear from Jason Osborne, a man resplendent in that beautiful rainbow tunic and sporting one of the most extraordinary and most wonderful haircuts in world cycling. Let's hear from Jason now.
So, einen haben wir noch, meine Damen und Herren. One more. We have 1 minute and 50 to go. Let's talk very short to the world champion, Jason Osborne. So, welcome first in Zurich, Jason. We talked to two of your guys who do not so often racing on a home trainer. So, what are your tips for this race for 1 hour full gas?
Yeah, it's my first time on this platform, obviously. I've been racing on Swift like most of the time. So, for me, it's also a new experience to learn how the platform works, but it's definitely going to be a fast start. Everyone is out of the gun really fast, so be patient there. And yeah, I think it's going to be, during the whole race, always a lot of suffering, and yeah, looking forward.
You are the only one riding with headwind. Is this an advantage? Why do you do it? No one wants headwind.
Yeah, it basically cools your body down, and I was lucky that I didn't forget it. My mat I forgot, but the ventilators are not, so hopefully it will give me some watts for saving for today.
We're looking forward. Thank you so much. World Champion Jason Osborne, meine Damen und Herren. Und damit haben wir
Jason
noch
Osborne,
30
he's got
Sekunden.
the
Ja,
fan
wir haben ihn
there.
natürlich gefragt, was kann er hier?
Obvious reasons. One, to keep him a little bit cooled down, and also I think to keep that hairstyle looking kind of windswept and interesting. He's a fascinating character. Chatting to him earlier on, he's of course an Olympic silver medalist in rowing and surprised everyone with that UCI World Championship win at the end of 2020. And he's back on the home trainer to see what he can do about taking the victory in this first event in Digital Swiss 5. Of course, they did have Digital Swiss 5 last year, and how wonderful that was. We're ready to go, and we're flying into the start of this first of the Digital Swiss 5 events. Switching across to the ROUVY platform, we can see that has been the anticipated fast start. As Jason Osborne had anticipated, you've got to be at pretty much maximum revs and maximum power from the minute the countdown clock goes down to 0, and everybody has got it up to a pretty intense level. There is drafting in ROUVY. It hasn't always been on this platform, but it's recently been introduced, and I think it's going to be an absolute game changer in every sense as to how people ride this event. They will get a draft effect, and you will be able to save a certain amount of watts by riding in the slipstream of other riders. In the early moments, Jan Saska has clearly come with his game face and his game legs on board as well. The 19-year-old Czech mountain bike racer straight out of the gate, absolutely flying. ROUVY specialised rider from Czech Republic, so he'll be very familiar with this platform, and he's straight into action. And look at that, Jason Osborne. He really understands the dynamics and the power required, and as a rowing silver medalist indeed in the men's lightweight sculls in Tokyo not so long ago, he's now transitioning across to cycling full-time. Raced with the Quick Step squad on the road towards the end of the road season as a stagiaire, as a trial run for a full-time switch to cycling next year. That's the anticipated run, and he's close to the head of affairs. Reto Hollenstein, racing remotely, is also looking in some pretty good shape at the moment. The veteran Swiss rider, he's tall, almost 2 meters tall indeed. And he's got big levers, big engine, big power, and he's put himself into prime position. He's up towards the front. Connie Loser as well, the mountain bike racer, trained roofer as I mentioned. It's he says his first online race. I'm not sure I believe him. That's a remarkable effort to get close to the head of affairs. It's so easy to get dropped in the early moments of these events, and if you lose the draft, if you lose that slipstream effect, it really is tough to recover from that. We'll scroll down through the list and give you some of the names to conjure with, just to remind you of the riders. 5 different squads. We've got Basel, Lausanne, Lugano, Lucerne and Zurich. For Basel, it's Boris Stein. To remind you, Corin Lebecki's remote, as indeed is Franz Luschke, the triathlete, Jason Osborne and Laura Chacon here in the hall. In Zurich, for the Lausanne squad, Alessandra Keller, the 25-year-old Swiss mountain bike racer, former junior and under-23 world champion, is here in the hall. Jan Saschke is in flying form in the early moments, and he's safely in the pack as they race through the early stages. It's pretty much a flat run through to about the halfway point of this lap, and then we hit a little lump, which could be an opportunity for a bit of separation. Mauro Schmidt, as I've mentioned, the 21-year-old Swiss rider who's made a name for himself. He's a real breakthrough performer with a stage victory in the Giro d'Italia earlier on this year. He's in the hall, remotely racing for them. Sami Hurseler, the triathlete, veteran rider indeed, is an Ironman competitor. How much is he enjoying the hurt that he's having to put on himself? Well, he's mid-pack at the moment, sitting 11th in the group as we scroll through the order. Zuzana Zafarova, I've mentioned, the mountain bike rider, 20-year-old Czech rider. Zafarova sitting at the outside of the top 20 at the moment, just flirting with disaster really, but she's managing to keep herself in the mix. And the Lugano squad, just to run through their numbers. Hannah de Vet is the 23-year-old triathlete from Belgium. Third in the Belgian National Championships back in 2019. Herman Pernsteiner here in the hall, as indeed is Hayden Wild, I should say, the 24-year-old triathlete from New Zealand. 9th in the world, first in Oceania. He's a fine triathlete, but he hasn't had to go splashing his way into the start of this competition. How well has he, and indeed how well have others, warmed up into this one? Loane Duvoisin, the 23-year-old Swiss triathlete. She's the world triathlon cross champion. She likes to ride a mountain bike, on a road bike here, and on her home trainer. Slightly different feel of an event. She's racing remotely, as indeed is Sean Bennett, the 25-year-old US rider with Team Quebec and Nextash, second on a stage of the Amgen Tour in California a few years ago. And he's racing at home, as indeed is Thomas Steger, the triathlon rider, 29-year-old Austrian, 5th in the world long-distance triathlon championships of late. Just 2 teams to let you know about. Jakob Kadleks, we mentioned, as indeed Connie Loser, Martin Van Riel and Nina Derren are here in the hall for the Lucerne squad and racing remotely. The world champion of 2007 on the road, Marta Bastianelli of the Ale BT Ljubljana squad, racing for Lucerne here today, as indeed is her road teammate Mavi Garcia, 37-year-old Spanish rider. And the Zurich squad, just to remind you, Adrian Bifford is the triathlon competitor that is here racing alongside Gino Mader, Marlon Reusser, and Reto Hollenstein and Zgabu Grame are racing remotely. A little bit of a push on here from Reto Hollenstein. Here in the hall, I can tell you, Marlon Reusser, for all the efforts that she's making, she's still managing to give the crowd a little bit of entertainment. I tell you what, she again also claims that this is her very first indoor competition, her first online bike race experience, but she seems to have got the hang of it. She's safely in the middle of the group, running around about 11, 12, 13, that kind of order, staying in the wheels and staying in the slipstream, getting that draft effect. Just to remind you, it's the top 2 male teams and the top female team time from our position at the end of this race will count for your team. So just how these riders and these teams will have worked it out to try and maybe assist and ensure that they've got as many of their teammates close to the head of affairs when they come to the conclusion of this event, well, that remains to be seen. We're very much racing as a pack as things currently stand. It's, well, the entire group at just over 6.5 minutes of bike racing complete to this point. And I don't think anyone has been discommoded or detached from the lead group at the moment. I'll try and scroll down through the order and get a sense of exactly what's happening amongst the leaders. But it's fairly intense work at the moment, but you sense that everyone is, by evidenced, I think, by the fact that Marlon Reusser was able to just wave to the crowd here in the stadium in the Salzsporthalle. Normally plays host to a handball team. Well, they're on the road this weekend, so they've left the hall free for the 20 bikes. There are 3 amateurs as well trying to stay in here and stay in the mix as well. They're not part of the race action proper. Jason Osborne hits the front. Boris Stein is thereabouts for the Basel squad. And Hollenstein is making his presence felt. Gino Mader as well is ensuring that he's not always on the front, but he's never far from it. Thomas Steger as well is floating and gravitating towards the head of affairs. And they've just hit this little drag. It's not particularly long, but it gets up to 10% in places, and this is where it's really going to hurt. Remind you, we're on the first of 4 ascents of this climb, first of 4 11.8 kilometer laps, and we're just at around about the halfway point of the first of 4 laps, so a little bit of mental calculation would suggest we're at around about 1/8 distance. Aaron Steiner is towards the front of the hall. How close to the front of the group is he? Well, he's 4th on my screen, and certainly doing a really, really solid job to stay close to the head of affairs in this early running. For Jason Osborne, the haircut still looks absolutely perfect, but the zip has come down already. He's starting to feel it. I think they all are. And you can tell by riders getting out of the saddle that this is very much a hill. So we plunge over the top of that hill and into the descent, but you can't afford to freewheel here in ROUVY. You got to keep riding, got to keep making the effort. Over 6 watts per kilo being pumped out by Thomas Steger close to the head of affairs. That's the kind of numbers required when we hit these moments and periods of particular intensity. Hayden Wild well to the fore as well, 5.2 watts per kilo, just spikes up over 6 watts, massive investment, huge numbers being put out. The record for this lap was recorded a few days ago by an amateur rider at something in the order of about 3.8 watts per kilo. I think we're certainly going to have a record lap now at the conclusion of this lap, for all that it was a standing start. I suspect we're going to have a brand new lap record here. Osborne on the front. Doesn't look like a huge effort, does it? He's definitely got a relatively low cadence. Suggests that he's got big watts. A little bit of a wave to the crowd. I'm in control of this effort. I can handle this. Let's get a look at the overhead as we race through Lucerne. Well, you would forgive him for thinking that Gino Mader has managed to take his leave of the rest. The timing screen still suggesting that it's indeed very much all together. Mader sitting 5th place. Osborne solid on the front at the moment. Take a little momentary promenade down by the river. This beautiful circuit that takes the riders through Lucerne's Old Town. Famous for those beautiful frescoed houses, the picturesque squares, made it a world-famous destination for tourism. Short detour into the old town, and then we head a little bit later past the Bourbaki Panorama, one of the few remaining monumental circular paintings in the world. 112 meters long, well worth a visit if you ever get a chance. I'm sure these riders will take the opportunity to look at it. Heads down. Nader, Osborne and Steger maintaining a position close to the head of affairs, and following that climb, let's see if there's been much damage done, whether that's allowed riders to take their leave of the rest. Steger, it looks as if, and Osborne, Wild, Pernsteiner and Gino Mader, looks as if they've detached themselves from the rest. Reto Hollenstein is leading the charge behind Boris Stein for Team Basel. So it's looking good for Team Lugano, Team Basel, Team Zurich, and Lugano too. Lugano have put 2 riders into this breakaway group. They're Steger and Hayden Wild. For the Lugano squad, it's going well in Lucerne at the moment, and plenty of those riders are here in the Salzsporthalle in Zurich. Yeah, behind Hollenstein is racing almost solo. He's got Boris Stein for company, or within a couple of meters, just trying to get on terms. And then behind them, there's a group is reassembling following that grippy little climb. Martin van Riel sitting 8th. Last time we heard, ahead of Marlon Reusser, Adrian Bifford, Jakob Kadletz. Sean Bennett is part of that group as well. Connie Loser, Saskia Husseler, and the rest, and a little bit of a daylight starting to appear between themselves and the rest. Hannah de Vet running in 17th place, Franz Luschke, Alessandra Keller 19th, and at the outside of the top 20 at the moment is Corin Lebecki. Corin Rivera, as was, racing for Team Basel, but worth reminding you, of course, that there is an individual trophy for men and women, and indeed they are racing for their team. The team competition, I think, is always one that, particularly in cycling, that everyone really feels a sort of an onus of responsibility, and it's the element, I think, that really gets people motivated to try and make as big an effort as they possibly can to stay in touch. Chacon Mavi Garcia just sitting in 23rd at the moment, and Marta Bastianelli is close to the wheel of her Team Lucerne, and indeed Team. And that's the current situation with the watts per kilogram. Just get a sense of what Jason Osborne is putting out. Around about 5.5 to 6 watts per kilo. That's what's required. Looks like a low cadence. It's kind of stepped up a little bit, and he looks so in control of his effort. He's the most remarkable physical specimen, isn't he? He can really pull those oars, and he's got such an engine, such extraordinary ability. Huge lungs to go with them. And it's 6.2 watts per kilo right now. That's what it takes, and that's it's having an effect, to say the least. Osborne starting to open up a little bit of a gap over the rest. Indeed, according to my timing screen, it would suggest that he could well be as much as 100 meters up the road. So Osborne is no flash in the pan. The world champion is showing what he's capable of, as we try and get up to the leaders. Steger, Pernsteiner, Mader also pushing hard to get on terms. They're going to have to work together. There is a draft effect here. There is an opportunity to save a little bit of energy in the wheels of the other riders. And if they're to get on terms with Jason Osborne, this is still early stages. And coming towards the conclusion of this first lap. So the final, let's get a look at this finish. If it comes down to a sprint, this is what it's going to look like. Pan flat, as you might expect, as we come into the finishing zone. The final 100 meters, that's not an issue here, of course. Under the kite across the line. And Osborne still extending his advantage. He's gaining a meter here and a meter there, and his watts per kilo output is noticeably higher than the rest, isn't he? He's maintaining this intensity at 5.5 to 6 watts per kilo. consistently. Gino Mader is kind of spiking up around the 5.5 watts mark by times, but starting to feel it, I think, a little bit. Pernsteiner, Steger have made it for company, but only just massive effort being made here by Gino Mader. He told us in advance of this that the idea of making these efforts in a cold November is, well, he's going to give the crowd his very best effort. He's sitting, as things currently stand, close to the head of affairs. Indeed, it's this Pernsteiner that we're actually looking at. Yeah, indeed, it's Pernsteiner just flirting with disaster here, hanging on grimly onto the back of the group at the moment. Steger, Mader and Wild working together. The riders in the hall almost oblivious to the presence of the other riders. It's lovely and cool here. We mentioned that just one rider bringing a fan with him. Fan in the real sense rather than any virtual sense, and but it's not massively necessary. It really, really is cool and lovely conditions here in the hall for the riders. There's Mader. I think just chatting to Marlon Reusser. Sits just to his right. Marlon Reusser is leading the women's competition, by the way. She's sitting 8th at the moment and absolutely flying along. It's certainly belying her status as a first-time, a rookie indoor racer, rookie online racer, first time racing in the digital world, she says, in any sort, shape or description, but well, you wouldn't think it, the way she's riding at the moment. She's got plenty of world's top professional bike riders, triathletes, and indeed mountain bike racers behind her at the moment. Gino Mader continuing to plow on here in his efforts to get on terms with Jason Osborne, but Osborne has extended his advantage. He's now approaching, what, 250 meters ahead of Thomas Steger. Hayden Wild, Gino Mader, Herman Pernsteiner, those riders riding in concert. Redo Hollenstein leading the best of the rest, running 6th at the moment for Team Zurich. At over 43, touching 44 kilometers an hour average speed at the moment. It's worth noting that Jason Osborne, who's around about 400 meters further up the road at the moment, is getting across the virtual tarmac at about 45, 46 kilometers an hour. So he's continuing to extend his advantage, and it really is a wonderful powerhouse display by the German rider Jason Osborne, 27-year-old rider. And I think we can see how Redo Hollenstein is getting on. He's running in 6th place at the moment. I wonder how much he's enjoying it. There we go. There's Redo in the pain cave, or the pain attic, whatever it might be. Hollenstein doing a super job. Israel, Startup Nation rider, of course, on the road. Veteran, 36-year-old Swiss from Frauenfeld. Almost 2 meters tall, as I mentioned, so it'll be scraping along the ceiling there. And Hollenstein's doing a really, really impressive effort. He's running 6th at the moment. He's missed that group across that climb, that brief climb, which will be a source of frustration and distraction to him. He's got Boris Stein for company at the moment, and they're running in 6th and 7th. Corin Lebecki, Team DSM rider, on the road. And Corin racing with Team Basel. Heading off to Team Jumbo-Visma next year is an interesting move for her, and 10th in the Worlds, 7th in the Olympics this year. Won the final stage of the Women's Giro back in June, and Corin Lebecki is ploughing on, pressing on, trying to get on terms with the leading woman at the moment. It's Marlon Reusser, who's slipped 10th in the race, but she's part of, well, she hasn't so much slipped as she's part of a group that is vying for 8th at the moment. Sean Bennett is in there. Marlon Reusser, as I've mentioned, Connie Loser, Martin van Riel, Jakob Kadletz, Adrian Brifford. It's quite it's a decent-sized group. 6 riders in that move at the moment. And the only woman amongst them is Marlon Reusser, who has the advantage, I suppose, of those other riders, and that's going to assist her in her efforts to try and win the women's competition. Anna de Vet, the Belgian triathlete for the Lugano squad, is going well, and by my calculations is currently the second-placed woman rider in 17th position in the race at the moment, pumping out over 4 watts per kilo. Marlon Reusser, I can tell you, 3.7, well, it's just spiking up, so it's well over 4 watts per kilo on average across the last kilometre that we've seen from Marlon Reusser. So huge numbers really for the Swiss National Road and Time Trial champion. What an engine she's got. And she's got to take some beating. Thomas Steger, Gino Mader, starting to stretch the elastic a little bit. Up front, Osborne, I can tell you now, showing coming up on 500 metres, almost gone half a kilometre, 436 metres at the moment over the Wild Pernsteiner, Gino Mader, Thomas Steger group. Redo Hollenstein, I can tell you, is starting to close the gap. I think Hollenstein has a really good shot at getting back on terms here. Himself and Boris Stein working well together and have got themselves to within about 100 metres. And Mavi Garcia, not the only rider, I think, who's in a pool of discomfort and pain and suffering. Pernsteiner, always good when the road goes up. And we hit this climb again on the second time of asking. Halfway around this second lap, and Lebecki looks in control of her effort. Hollenstein is looking at the video for the encouragement he needs to get on terms. Nothing they can do about Osborne at the moment. Over half kilometre clear of the best of the rest. It's Steger, Pernsteiner, Wild and Gino Mader. Hollenstein now, well, he's probably the bones of about 200 metres behind his fellow countryman Mader in that group, but still running in a comfortable, probably very uncomfortable 6th place would probably be the correct way to describe it. Abu Gramey looking stood still in the road there. I suspect we've got a little bit of an electronical for him. Could well be suffering with some difficulties. You've got to have a good signal. Gramey running towards the back of affairs at the moment, indeed, pretty much stood still. He too, as well as Lukasz Tomasek, suffering with some electronic difficulties. That's prevented them from really showing us what they're capable of. 1 or 2 other riders a little bit further back than you might have expected at the moment. Some of the riders running 2-3 kilometers behind. That gives you such a sense of the agony. That's really, and the extraordinary effort that's been put out. Look at Steger just spiking up over 6 watts per kilo very briefly. And as Jason Osborne hits the hill at the second time of asking, the riders behind, albeit briefly, start to close the gap on the flying German rider. I think that he'll reassert his advantage as they all end up on this 10% gradient. He's really dragging the effort out and trying to maintain the same kind of cadence and the same kind of watts. Here's an opportunity, really, if anything, to step up the watts. And Gino Mader, that fluid style of a practiced road professional. What a breakthrough he's had in the sport, and what a star they've got. They've got a few stars at the moment. Swiss cycling's in a really good place. And Marta Bastianelli, the former world champion. Interesting decorations on the roof of the garage, or wherever it is that her pain cave is. And she's pressing on. Just got a shot of Laura Chacon from Team Basel, just alongside Jason Osborne, the leading individual competitor in this event as things currently stand. Just to remind you, Marlon Reusser is leading the women's competition. She's got fairly handy advantage now over Anna de Vet, probably getting on for a kilometre down. Just about 700 metres between the leading, the first 2 women. And Jason Osborne's hairstyle is still intact. That's the main thing. Just about. That fan is doing a great job of keeping it all together. Osborne re-establishes his advantage of just over half a kilometre. Through the 20-kilometre mark for Osborne, just approaching the halfway point in this event. It's just over 47 kilometres, a little way to go before we get to that. The end of this lap will be the halfway point. And for Osborne, in the company of Boris Stein, their teammates. Stein running 7th at the moment, just to his right. Lebecki looking for that encouragement to continue the effort. What's the news coming? Well, she's slipped her place. She's running in a group at the moment, 19th on the running order, 2.8 kilometres down the road from this man, Jason Osborne. Roycer's 1.6 kilometres back, so just to get a sense of the relative difference between the women. Roycer's running 9th on the road, the virtual road, 1.6 kilometres back from Osborne, and Hannah de Vet is 2.7, so 1.1 kilometres between the first two women. Then Lebecki is next up, so Lebecki with a great shot of maybe challenging for that second position. It's going to be tough to get on terms with this woman, Marlon Roycer. Lebecki will get a little bit of I think, encouragement that she's coming up and perhaps just timing her effort. How much has she saved for the other laps? It just starts at such a rate and such a level of intensity. Osborne looks like he's on a different planet at the moment, doesn't he? He's just almost in dream world, soaking up the pain and just descending into a world of suffering. Just how effective and how helpful these tunes are for helping the riders make the effort that's required. Gap's coming up on 700 metres now between Osborne and Steger. Super effort. I think it's worth recording, though, that Team Lugano have put no less than 3 riders into the chase. So Jason Osborne for Team Basel is doing all that he can possibly do to score the maximum points here. But Steger, Wild and Pernstein are working together behind. And indeed, it's only 2 of those riders that will score points for their team. It's the leading 2 men from their team. But second and third across the line, well, that looks like it's very much a possibility. Gino Mader has been detached, and he and Reto Hollenstein, 2 Team Zurich riders, are almost within touching distance. So Hollenstein, the Swiss rider, racing with Team Zurich, about to catch his fellow countryman Gino Mader for Team Zurich. And when that happens, even though they are hundreds of kilometres apart, well, they will be joined in union to try and see what they can do about racing to score maximum points for Team Zurich. And Marlon Roycer is, I think, odds on to be the top scoring woman. So Team Zurich in with a super shot actually of taking the overall, or at least the team's competition here. For all that, it's going to be tough for them to get the leading man across the line. Marlon Roycer looks like she's in fine shape. Indeed, I wouldn't rule out the possibility that she could get a little bit closer to the leading men as we get closer to the conclusion of this event. It's a world of hurt for everyone. Chacon is pressing on and ploughing on. Nora Chacon, 22nd in the event at the moment, and she's running about 400 or 500 metres behind Corinne Lebecki. Sandra Keller is about 100 metres down from Corinne Lebecki at the moment, and Lebecki needs to find around about 300 metres to get on terms with Hannah de Vet. That's in the race to be second amongst the women. It's Marlon Roycer, who is in a class of her own, really, at the head of affairs. But Reto Hollenstein has now managed to become attached to Gino Mader. Is the battle for at least the 2 riders, not so much a battle, these 2 riders running 5th and 6th, they are teammates. And just how much assistance, what has Gino Mader got left for the fight here? Because he was with the group running in second. We're across the line to complete 2 laps, hit the halfway point. I'll tell you what, do not go down into the hall and do not tell anyone right now that they're only halfway. They don't need to be reminded. Jason Osborne still managing to consistently put out over 5.5 watts per kilo. Redo Hollenstein's able to ask questions, so he's clearly still got, well, probably something approaching all 5 senses functioning, which, given the sort of wattage outputs that he's cranking out there, is no mean feat. Pulling his pain face. It's effective stuff, running 5th. Got Gino Mader for company. Could be good news for Mader to just, if he can latch on and stay in touch here. But, you know, when you start to suffer and start to lose the wheel, and yeah, you can lose heart, but also just, well, the wheels can fall off completely. So it'll be interesting to see whether Gino Mader has managed to measure his effort, maybe recover ever so slightly. The opportunity for these minor recoveries, not quite the same as road cycling out the road, is it? Because you can't exactly just promenade in the wheels and try and regain some of the effort and the energy that you need to make a further push. You've got to keep riding. This is very much a time trial effort, and no surprise really that it's really suiting Jason Osborne, a man who's dedicated himself to rowing and has dabbled in cycling at an impressive level. Outdoors, as I mentioned, he's done a little bit of stagiaring as sort of a trial period with the Quick Step squad, the Coin and Quick Step team this year. Some suggestion that he could conceivably be heading to that team on a full-time basis next year, yet to be confirmed. And Jason Osborne, though, has been a 6th place finisher, and indeed a 6th and 8th place finisher in the German National Time Trial Championship. And he wasn't distracted by his activities on the water. Chacon and Marlon Royce are just taking the opportunity to dampen down. And now is when it really starts to hurt. All of that effort to this point has only brought you to halfway in the competition. Many of the riders still yet to cross the line to begin the 3rd and penultimate lap of this 11.8 kilometer circuit. Tell you what, I have a funny feeling that when we get into race 2 tomorrow, Jason Osborne's not going to be the only rider in the hall with his own fan. Bernsteiner. Familiar characteristics really for a rider who excels in the mountains. Top 10 finisher in Giro d'Italia 2020. He is a wonderful stage racer. He's a wonderful climber, great all-round bike rider. You wouldn't have thought this particular discipline of cycling would have suited him, but at the moment he's absolutely flying. He's part of that group of 3 riders who are racing in the wake of Jason Osborne. That wake is starting to still because they're almost a kilometre behind. There's a remarkable effort here from Jason Osborne, once again to emphasise that it was no fluke really, his victory in the World Championships at the end of December last year. Steger Wild and Hermann Bernsteiner slip now 1 kilometre behind Jason Osborne, who has completed 26 kilometres of this event, so now well over the halfway point for him. Well into this 3rd of 4 laps, still maintaining his pace across the virtual tarmac at over 45 kilometres an hour, and over 6 watts per kilo. And is Gino Mader talking to himself? Is he talking to the wall? Is he talking to anyone around him? I suspect he's just trying to give himself a little bit of a G-up, a little bit of encouragement for the fight. In that period where we're well beyond the start and it's starting to ache a little bit, but still a long way from the finish. It's just the point where riders would be looking for a little bit of an opportunity just to throttle back a little bit. Osborne looks like he's doing a warm-up, doesn't he? It is remarkable. Of all the riders in the hall here, I don't really think that there's any rider looks as relaxed, and yet he's the one that's putting at the highest level. And the wind machine doing its work. Looks like he stepped straight from the making a video for an 80s boy band. did a solid job for Team Basel. Boris Stein, his teammate, his nearest place teammate at the moment, is running in 7th place. And he'll score 7th place points, were that to be maintained through to the conclusion of affairs. Franz Luschke, best placed of the Team Basel women, is of course the aforementioned Corinne Lebecki, who's now about 400 meters behind Hannah de Vet. So de Vet looking in more sort of a comfortable position in that 2nd place amongst the women. Hannah de Vet for Team Lugano. Team Lugano, who have Steger and Hayden Wild, and indeed Hermann Pernsteiner, running in line astern. Those 3 riders packing well together, working well together. Great teamwork. Great. What's the strategy here? I think it's simply to work together, to share the effort, and to keep the rest at bay. I was going to say to keep Jason Osborne on a tight leash, but he's gone into the distance. Hollenstein racing clear of with Gino Mader. He's still got Mader for company, and this looks like Boris Stein, who's also attached himself as well. So it's a 3-way battle, if indeed it be a battle, for 5th on the road at the moment. Stein has managed to just latch his way onto this triathlete. Hollenstein steps off the front of this group for the first time, I think, since I don't know how long. Is he suffering there a little bit? Gino Mader's recovered. No, it's Hollenstein that's on the front of the group. Yeah, apologies for that. I think this is Mader just slipping in behind. That would make sense. So it's Hollenstein that continues to set the tempo amongst this group. They've hoovered up Gino Mader. Boris Stein along for the ride. Sean Bennett now running in 8th, or in that group, which have really kind of worked consistently well together, haven't they? Sean Bennett, Marlon Reusser, what an exceptional performance really it is by Reusser. I mentioned the 30-year-old Swiss time trial specialist who's really only been able to focus her full attention on cycling in the last couple of years. She qualified as a doctor, she's a surgeon, and indeed went back to working as a doctor during lockdown and during the pandemic. She's been involved in her politics as an advocate for the environment and for as Green Party, I think, involved in college, and just a very interesting character to say the least. And she's absolutely flying here. She's consistently running in the top 8-9 riders at the moment. Martin van Riel, as I mentioned, is also in that group. 28-year-old Belgian. Bronze in the European Championships in triathlon back in 2018, but 4th, agonizingly close to a medal in triathlon in the Tokyo Olympics just a few months ago. This very different prospect altogether, showing no lack of facility on the indoor trainer. Here comes the hill. 3rd time of asking. The penultimate grind up this 10% gradient. And it will be instructive really to see if Gino Mader, who would gets up these short, sharp little grippers better than most. Ordinarily, I think, probably better than Redo Hollenstein, who is a unit. He's a big man, but he's got fantastic efficiency on the indoor trainer. Great watts per kilo numbers coming out from Redo Hollenstein at the moment, just spiking up over 6 watts per kilo momentarily. Gino Mader putting out something similar, albeit he's got fewer kilograms to carry up the hill. Boris Stein as well is just gravitating closer to the front of that group. This group of 3, I can tell you, are about 1,100 meters clear of the Marlon Reusser group. As Reusser approaches the bottom of that hill, she hits the front of that group, just ahead of Sean Bennett, World Tour Pro. Martin van Riel, Connie Loser also in that move. Well, van Riel actually and Loser have just slipped a couple of 100 meters behind the Sean Bennett and Marlon Reusser job. Yeah, just been had my attention directed to the performance, great performance indeed, by one of the amateurs in this race. Just 3 amateur riders, but performing with great distinction. Jürgen Foley, the Swiss rider, running in 16th position at the moment, and has got some very accomplished professional mountain bike riders, triathletes, and indeed road riders behind him on the road at the moment. A great effort from Jürgen Foley. Up front, it's all about Jason Osborne. Now 1.38 kilometers clear of Thomas Steger. 2 Austrian riders racing for Team Lugano in the company of New Zealander Hayden Wild. And Wild spiking up over 7 watts per kilo, albeit briefly, but that's what's required, and just throws it onto an absolutely massive gear, and they plunge down this descent at virtual speeds in excess of 70 kilometers per hour in hot pursuit. The road flattens out for Jason Osborne. He settles into that 45, 46 kilometer an hour effort. Corin Lebecki is still fighting the good fight, running 20th at the moment for Team Basel. Just slipped behind Alessandra Keller, but well, they're now about 600 meters behind Hannah De Vet. So De Vet looks as if she's secure in that 2nd position amongst the women at the moment for Team Lugano. Corin Lebecki running in 3rd amongst the women, but in the company now of Alessandro Keller. They've got a little bit of daylight between themselves and Mavi Garcia is running 5th of the women. Nora Chacon, next up then Susanna Zafarova, Nina Deron, and Marta Bastianelli running towards the back of the order at the moment, but still ploughing on regardless. Former world road race champion. At a remote location, racing for Team Lucerne on the Lucerne circuit. Bastianelli is pumping it out. Garcia too, the former Spanish champion. Excellent bike cover there. Marlon Reusser is the powerhouse though that leads this competition and leads it comfortably from 9th amongst 9th overall amongst these competitors. Reusser's effort still consistently at the 3.5 to 4 watts per kilo kind of numbers, to challenge most male amateurs and indeed quite a few male professional cyclists, as is being evidenced here. Jason Osborne's just moving back up, approaching the 6 watts per kilo mark. He's heading towards the final lap, and no sign of any diminishing of the effort here. And that's what's remarkable about Jason Osborne, is that he's been able to maintain this effort. He didn't race into it too early, gave it about what, a half a kilometer before he started to assert his authority, and the elastic snapped, disappeared up the road. 1.3 kilometers to the good, and he is absolutely flying. Steger, Pernsteiner and Hayden Wild now well approaching 1.5 kilometers back. In actual fact, Steger has put a little bit of distance between himself and the others. So Steger, in the bragging rights amongst the Team Lugano trio, looks like he's just detached himself and put a little bit of distance, as I say, between himself and Hayden Wild and Herman Pernsteiner. So Wild and Herman Pernsteiner will battle it out, I think, to decide which one of the Team Lugano riders is the second counting male. Just to remind you, it's the top 2 male times from each team and the top female time that are going to count in terms of the team competition. Not so much their time, but their position, their position across the line. Here's the kind of core temperatures. The core company here have a special unit to try and give you a sense of the core temperature of riders in excess of 38.5 degrees, which is, well, it's scary actually. It's scary kind of numbers. Then that's why those riders are having to hydrate. Might only be an hour, but it's going to have an effect on performance. They need to hydrate as much as possible, try and keep control of those core temperatures. Fascinating metrics that are being acquired by this little unit that goes on the heart rate straps of the riders. Takes the surface temperature and sweat and has a little algorithm and all sorts of complicated mathematical calculations that gives a fairly accurate core temperature number. And Osborne Well, his core temperature is going to be as hot as anyone because his pace is as hot as anyone. Jason Osborne racing home free and racing clear at the moment at well over 5 watts per kilo. Now 35 kilometers completed of the event. It's a 47-kilometer race, remember, so down to the final 12 kilometers at the way that he gets across the virtual tarmac. Little to touch it. Approaching this final lap now. Jason Osborne just through the final bend, and in pursuit of him, Hayden Wild running fourth at the moment in the company of Hermann Pernsteiner. They too are in the wake of Thomas Steger. Steger is solo in second at the moment. This is Pernsteiner and Hayden Wild of Team Lugano. What a fetching little red and white jersey on their avatar. This is Steger, the Austrian rider, who's doing a really solid job and looking odds on now for this second place finish. 29-year-old Austrian from Jenbach. 5th in the World Long Distance Triathlon Championships in 2021. And 2nd in the European Middle Distance Championships. You would imagine that amongst the triathletes it would be those riders who ride Olympic distance or the shorter distances that might prevail in this style of competition. But that's not the way it's working out here. Steger's certainly worked out how to compete online. How to compete on ROUVY. I wonder just how many riders and teams will be accumulating experience here. Have a little bit of a debrief tonight. Have a little bit of a think about it and how our strategy is going to change and alter across the 3 days of competition. This, just to remind you, the first of 5 days of racing. 5 pro races. Sorry, 3 days of racing, 5 races. Tomorrow we've got races around virtual Lugano at 1300 hours, 1 p.m. Central European time, and then at 7 p.m. in Europe. We race around Lucerne, and then on Sunday races 4 and 5, 11:30 in the morning, then 4 o'clock Central European time. Basel and Zurich to conclude. Get the drinks in quick enough, or often enough. Osborne still, look at those numbers, 5.5, 5.7, up over 6 watts per kilo. Looks like he's right to the shops, doesn't he? It really is remarkable. Now, what an engine. And I don't doubt, I think that were the Corning Quick-Step squad not to pick him up for this upcoming road season, which seems to be the plan for Jason Osborne, that certainly there'll be 1 or 2 other World Tour outfits that would be very interested to see what they could do with his particular physical characteristics and where he'd slot into the day-to-day running of a racing team. Certainly for Marlon Reusser, that's already well understood. Dedication now to her cycling career is paying dividends, and it's certainly paying dividends here as she heads towards victory amongst the women as well. She too is approaching, she's now approaching the final lap. She's over 3.5 kilometers behind Osborne, but I will remind you, she's racing in the company of Sean Bennett, a World Tour professional with Team Quebec Assos. 25-year-old rider. Team Quebec at Nextash. Squad in crisis, of course. The opportunity going to be for those riders. Jason Osborne, head down and going for glory. Still showing around about that 6 watts per kilo number. It really is a remarkable effort. No doubt when he heads into the wind tunnel and gets his time trial bike and his time trial position honed to perfection, his entire focus is on just what are these riders capable of sustaining through this final lap. As I mentioned, there just didn't seem to be any let up in the 45 kilometers an hour across this tarmac. Still a flat road really for Jason Osborne, so that's a number that tells us that it's a consistent effort. 5.6 watts per kilo, and down to the final, inside the final 10 kilometers now for Osborne. Gino Mader's going well, isn't he? Well, he's had that little blip, but he's been picked up by his teammate, his Team Zurich teammate, Redo Hollenstein. Has Mader managed to recover? I think we can catch up with him now.
So, wir haben versprochen, wir nutzen die Gelegenheit, das, was wir im normalen Radsport nicht können. So we promised, we try to talk with some athletes, what is impossible during a quite normal race. But, well, this is unique, and so why not talk to Gino Mäder? Gino, you like this race?
I pretty much like it, but I kind of hate Osborne because he absolutely killed it. But I think I'm still fighting for best of the rest. Not even. But it was a lot of fun the first 5 minutes, and then it got hard.
So, some more minutes to go. Position is quite okay, or you still want to get some more athletes?
I mean, I try to work with my teammate Reto, but it's really difficult over the distance. I think it's like 700 kilometers. And he has a bit of delay, because right now I'm attacking and he's not following that. It's a shame.
Also, Sie sehen es, meine Damen und Herren, hat
What's fascinating is
Spaß,
that
auch wenn es eine
Gino
ganze
Mäder said he
Menge
actually enjoyed the first
wehtut.
5 minutes. I tell you what, looked terrific. I think
we-
Jason Osborne could probably hear him while he was saying how much he didn't like the extraordinary performance from Osborne. He hates him. I think he admires and respects him, doesn't he? What a remarkable performance from Osborne. Remarkable performance too from Gino Mäder, and that was instructive, wasn't it? There's a little bit of delay there because, well, they're 700 kilometers apart, even though they're teammates and running together in this competition. It is the wonderful world of online virtual bike racing. Gino Mäder running in 5th place at the moment for Team Zurich, his fellow countryman and Team Zurich teammate Reto Hollenstein, running pretty much in line astern within 10 meters of each other, but making that effort. And well, it's tough to share the workload. I think they'll work out strategies. There will be a finessing and a reimagining and a thinking and lots of debriefs, I think, following this particular race, because indeed the ROUVY platform is developing, has done quite a bit over the last year, and they've introduced drafting, which I think has been a bit of a game changer. Boris Stein is starting to, well, he's working hard to stay on terms here. A little bit of a danger moment for himself and Gino Mäder. Well, Stein to stay on terms with Gino Mäder. Team Basel. That's good news for Jason Osborne, is it? Although he's just doing his own thing out front. 1.3 kilometers to the good on this final lap. And down to the final 7 kilometers of racing for Osborne. But the second counting rider for Team Basel, Boris Stein, is having to make an effort to try and get back on terms with Gino Mäder and Reto Hollenstein. Osborne working well. Laura Chacon to his left-hand side. Teammates with Team Basel. Chacon at the moment running 22nd overall, just behind Mavi Garcia. Just in front of them is Corin Lebecki. Then Lebecki running on terms with Alessandra Keller in pursuit of Hannah Devet. So there's quite the scrap for 2nd and 3rd positions amongst the women. Keller and Lebecki trying to see what they can do. Lebecki is the top scoring rider for Team Basel amongst the women. Her teammate Laura Chacon, who's here in the hall, is what, about well, just over a kilometre down. So Lebecki's certainly, I think, going to be the top scoring Team Basel rider. But for Osborne, I think there'll be a certain amount of anxiety when he discovers that the next 2 riders behind him, albeit they're well over a kilometre adrift. Steger is racing alone and racing towards 2nd place for Team Lugano and doing a really solid job. Hayden Wild and Herman Pernsteiner are racing together in 3rd and 4th positions at the moment. That will be, well, 2 of those 3 riders are going to be the top scoring riders for the Team Lugano squad. And the best of the Team Lugano women is Hannah Devet, who's heading towards 2nd in the women's competition. So it's going to be fascinating to see exactly how we tot the numbers up. Jason Osborne has managed to make it over the climb at the 4th and final time of asking. He plunges down the hill at speeds approaching and indeed in excess of 70 kilometers per hour. And heading towards the finish line now. Into the final, 5.5 kilometers of racing. Important not to go straight on there, otherwise you end up in the drink. Thomas Steger takes, well, is heading towards second place as I mentioned. He's got around about 700-800 meters advantage over the Pernsteiner and Wild little duo. Little inter-team rivalry and race towards the final podium position. Then we've got Mader Hollenstein and Boris Stein. And indeed, Mader looks like he's detached himself from Rado Hollenstein, and that could be as a result of that, just that little bit of delay perhaps. Great recovery by Mader, isn't it? Detached by the Pernsteiner Wild Steger group, has managed to realign himself with Rado Hollenstein, and if anything has recovered a bit. And Mader, time for an interview here in the hall, South Sportshalle. We're in Zurich. Many of the other riders are scattered to the four winds across the globe. And we're racing around Lucerne. Tomorrow's race, as I reminded you, tomorrow's first of two races takes place on the virtual Lugano circuit, which is choppier than this one, more of a climber's circuit. That'll be interesting to the likes of Hermann Pernsteiner. Gino Mader won't be afraid of it either. Currently running in 5th place, Pernsteiner in 4th. Will more climbs perhaps bring them a little bit closer to Jason Osborne? Will Osborne be able to handle the big mountains and the bigger hills as we get towards the a circuit that suits riders in different ways? This is Marlon Reusser, who is absolutely flying. Currently maintaining that position in 9th now. Lost a little bit of daylight between herself and Sean Bennett. Bennett has saved something up for this final lap and a half, and he's detached himself from Marlon Reusser, headed off up the road. And Reusser, well, so many of the riders are now riding in 1s and 2s. Groups of 1, it really has shattered, isn't it? All the riders are suffering, and it's all starting to disintegrate and into individual time trials and little 2-up efforts. Marlon Reusser is running in this fine 9th position, comfortably in the first third of the competitors, and by miles the leading woman here. Down to the final 3 kilometers for Jason Osborne. 3.5k, something like that to go. He plunges down, another little descent. Get a bit of relief from this, but I think he's not going to throttle back, continuing to pump out in excess of 5.5 watts per kilo. The consistency has been what's so remarkable about this effort from Jason Osborne. Claims not to have done that much cycling this year. What cycling he's done out on the road has been fundamentally about doing sort of steady long miles to maintain condition for his rowing activities. And he said when he did do his, just chatting to him before the event, when he did do his work for the Deceuninck Quick Step squad in the second half of the year, the intensity of road racing just took a little bit of getting used to. Went in the break in his very first race actually, and he said just needed to learn about how to manage his effort across a long road race. But really enjoyed the learning activity, and looks like he's picking up a couple of riders. He's lapping, putting more than 11 kilometers into riders out there. That's what's so impressive about Jason Osborne. He's in a different league, on a different planet, there's no doubt about it. 1.5 kilometers up the road from Thomas Steger, who himself is doing a really, really amazing job, because he's now, about approaching a full kilometer clear of his teammate and fellow countryman, Hermann Pernsteiner. Who's going to get that 3rd place? I think that's the real issue in doubt at the moment, and the fascinating final podium position is one to conjure with here. No doubt about it, the leading man and the leading woman, I think what's great as well actually is that the leading man and the leading woman are both in the hall here today, so we're going to get quick reaction at the conclusion of the event. Osborne now within touching distance of what is going to be a famous first victory in the Digital Swiss 5 of 2021. This event has been reimagined, reconstituted, reconstructed, and I think it's a concept that's set to be developed further, and is set, I think, to really capture the imagination of sports fans, cyclists of course, but I think sports fans of all hues are going to get a kick out of this one. especially as he is very much a specialist rower. Second, as I said, in the men's lightweight double sculls at the Tokyo Olympics. And Osborne now cruising towards the conclusion, just over a kilometre between himself and glory now. Just under, indeed. Just a little bit less than that for Jason Osborne. Coming up to the conclusion of the effort, he can start to compose his victory speech. Probably been doing that since the first lap. Down inside the final kilometre, indeed inside the final 500 metres for Jason Osborne as he works his way through to the finish line. He's going to get those virtual hands in the air. I think he might even put the actual hands in the air. 200 metres remaining as he winds and twists his way out onto the seafront here. And Jason Osborne through the final bend, approaching the finish line. The first of the digital Swiss 5 races is going to fall to the world champion. Jason Osborne can finally relax the pedals, arms in the air, and that one, it looks like it didn't take that much out of him. What an extraordinary effort. Now there's a round of applause from the other riders, including Gino Maders, running 6th in this competition. Has still much to fight for Team Honours here, but there's no doubting the man who's got the victory. Team Basel scored maximum points. Still much work to do for the likes of Boris Stein to try and score well for Team Basel, and they've also got their leading woman rider, who's Corinne Lebecki, racing remotely and racing potentially for a top 3 finishing position. We're watching with interest to see not just the second rider across the line, it's Thomas Steger within about 800 metres of the finish line, probably a little bit less than that in actual fact, as we look towards Steger to conclude this event and score an excellent haul of points for Team Lugano. We'll see, can we get a quick word with the men's winner while we look to see how Marlon Reusser's getting on. Let's hear now from Jason Osborne.
So first of all, congrats, Jason Osborne, great race. Nino told us you killed them. What did you do?
I don't know, I just started fast and then I saw I had a gap and I thought I might just continue, and then this happened, I don't know, and then I just kept pushing and yeah, could hold the pace quite well, and in the end it yeah, worked out for me.
Is this the biggest difference to road racing? If you start very fast, you can make a gap and bring it easier home than on the road?
Yeah, basically, on the road you have the peloton. You can't just move through it like you can, but it takes time. Here you just move through the avatar, so it's a lot easier. But yeah, those races are always fast, hard, and that's what it's about, indoor racing. Yeah.
How was it now racing on a real track? I guess it was a little bit different, and well, you just could see where to race through Lucerne. Your first impression?
Yeah, I think it's quite cool. Actually, I could remember some areas even, because we do the World Cup in rowing at the Rotsee in Lucerne. So I was in the city a couple of times, and yeah, I could notice some things here and there, which is quite nice.
Quasi ein Heimspiel. So, like
well,
a
what
home
an amazing
game,
achievement by Jason Osborne. Great achievement too by Thomas Steger, as he has been home now. He's home now in second place, just under 2 minutes behind Jason Osborne. And we're watching with interest to see who's going to be third across the line. Herman Pernsteiner, Hayden Wild in close attendance, 2 teammates. Private bragging rights for who's going to be the second counting male rider for Team Lugano as we head towards the finish line. Inside 500 meters to go for the second place rider. And it's Pernsteiner and Hayden Wild who are now on the riverfront, inside 300 meters to go. Who's going to get it? Marlon Reusser is heading towards the victory for the women. And we're inside 200 meters for our second place rider. Well, Pernsteiner and Wild in this little private battle. Who's got some fight still through to the finish line for this final position on the men's podium. As we go through to the line, we try and get a sense of it. I think it's Hayden Wild that's just about got it. We're just getting the news through. Indeed, nothing to separate them within a tenth of a second, but it's Hayden Wild indeed that has scooped that final podium position and scooped the second counting points position for the Team Lugano men as we wait for the appearance of the next rider. Boris Stein is still out the road and racing to glory today. Top 5 position on offer for him. Gino Mader is going to give a bit of an effort too. Marlon Reusser is just about 2.2 kilometers from the finish line. So Gino Mader is going to press on here to get, see can he just about overhaul Boris Stein. It's not quite going to happen. Stein finishes in 5th place. Gino Mader in 6th. Redo Hollenstein is going to be next to the line. He's just about, 200 meters from the finish line. A little bit less than that in actual fact. Redo Hollenstein running in 7th. And Hollenstein's done a really solid job through here. He's going to be the second counting male rider for Team Zurich. And Marlon Reusser to come as the leading woman. I think that team have a super shot at the Team Glory. Hollenstein can finally relax at home in the Pain Cave. It's been a sufferfest that has paid dividends for the 7th place finisher. Sean Bennett is the next man racing remotely for Team Lugano. He's already seen what a great job his teammates Thomas Steger and Hayden Wild and indeed Herman Pernsteiner have done. And they're going to score some big points today. It's Bennett that's coming home now within 400 meters of the finish line. Marlon Reusser, I can tell you, for those watching the women's competition, is within 1.5 kilometers of the finish of her effort as well. Marta Bastianelli has quite some considerable way to go at this point towards the back of the order, but Sean Bennett, well, the rich get richer, don't they? The better you are, the more time you have to recover, the more time you have to, the earlier you can think about relaxing. Sean Bennett is among those riders as he was in the final 100 meters. What an effort indeed it's been from all these riders. And Team Lugano with one of the nuttiest avatar colours combinations, I think. They're great jerseys. And it's home and hosed now for Sean Bennett in 8th place. Marlon Reusser is now under the kite and into the final kilometre for the leading woman in this competition. It has been a powerhouse performance by the Swiss national road and time trial champion. Silver medal, as I've already told you, in the Olympics and indeed in the World Championships. What a star she is. What an amazing performer. She claims this is her very first online bike race. Tell you what, it's not going to be her last. She's got another 4 to do in the next 3 days. She's already mentioned to us. And indeed, I think she will have developed quite the appetite for this kind of racing. It's been a really storming performance. She's run with some of the best male athletes indeed in a mountain bike time triathlon and indeed in road racing competition here today, and she's put many of them behind her. She has really taken to this like a duck to water. She's smiling now because she's miles up the road and inside the final 500 meters down onto the riverfront and approaching the final 300 meters for Marlon Reusser. The crowd are going to bring her home and she's going to get her hands in the air. Marlon Reusser has been in an absolute class of her own. Just as Jason Osborne has dominated the male event, Marlon Reusser has been up the road, clear of the rest, almost since the very beginning, and she has confirmed her status as the leading woman in the Digital Swiss 5. The first competition here in Lucerne is going to fall to Marlon Reusser. Around the final bend and into the final 100 meters, she'll get her arms in the air. Celebration for Marlon Reusser. The victory falls to Switzerland. And it looks like we've caught up with our winner now.
So Alan, I think it would have been the first time to do an interview already during the last K. Everything under control.
Sorry, the last part I didn't understand. Yes, I think yes. Yeah, I was a bit sad that I was left alone. I mean, it's not so much fun to just ride along on your own. So who was in front? This Sam? Oh man, that's not kind. It was not nice to attack me.
But I think it was not nice from your side to attack so many men and leave them all behind.
attacked many men. Sorry, I don't understand you. Yeah, I don't know, yeah. I'm happy.
So, look, you enjoyed the race. This kind of
reason to
racing.
be happy. Not so happy with Sean Bennett for disappearing up the road, but yeah, it was a good point. She put a fair few other competitors behind her, and she certainly put the leading, or at least the second place woman, by some distance and daylight behind her. I can tell you Hannah de Vet is heading towards 17th in this competition. Franz Luschke will be the next rider home in 16th place. Hannah de Vet will be the second placed woman for Team Lugano. That could be significant given the performance of the men and their scoring positions. It's going to take us a while, I think, to work out the team competition. So I'm not sure we're going to have the full results to you before the end of our broadcast here, but goes to the Digital Swiss 5 website for full updates on the results over the next hour or so. We'll have those to you. Luschke is within the final three, 150 metres. Hannah de Vet next up. Corinne Lebecki is scrapping for that final podium position for Team Basel. That too could be significant. Jason Osborne has been home a while at this point, but a podium finish for Corinne Lebecki could be very, very important for Team Basel in the team competition. And she has managed to distance and put some significant daylight between herself and Alessandro Keller, who she was running with for quite a while. So Keller has been distanced. Lebecki's heading to third. Hannah de Vet is, well, already home. Job done. And second for the Belgian triathlete. She finishes second on the day for Team Lugano. So there you have it. There's confirmation of the finishing order at the conclusion of our first race in the Digital Swiss 5. Lucerne has been claimed by Jason Osborne ahead of the full order is not quite as we saw it. I think it's Thomas Steger indeed that got second, wasn't it? Then Hayden Wild, Herman Pernsteiner, Boris Stein, Gino Maeder, Redo Hollenstein and the rest. And the leading woman, Marlon Reusser, across the line by quite a significant distance. And, yeah, let's scroll through some of the other names. Reusser, as I mentioned, in 9th place. 10th across the line, Martin van Riel, the Olympic medalist for Team Lucerne in the triathlon, and in the top 10 amongst the 27 riders, and indeed the 3 amateur competitors in here. Connie Loser getting up and getting across the line to complete in 11th place. Sami Ursuler for Team Lausanne in 12th position ahead of Jakub Kadlec of the Czech Republic in 13th. Adrian Briffer is 14th finisher, and what a great effort indeed for the leading amateur rider Jürgen Foley in a fine 15th position ahead of Franz Luschke of Team Basel. Hannah de Vet, as I mentioned, the second placed woman in 17th place ahead of Corinne Lebecki, one position further up on the podium. Jan Saske is through home and hosed and finished for Team Lausanne in 19th position, and we're waiting for the arrival of our 4th place woman now. Alessandro Keller of Team Lausanne is just about to finish, and indeed I think she's going to score for her team with that effort. Mavi Garcia is within touching distance of the finish line. She's the next rider we're going to see home to the finish line. The Anne BTC Ljubljana team rider, the 37-year-old Spanish competitor. What a fantastic rider indeed she's been. What a great Indian summer she's had to her career. Great performance in Strade Bianche, of course, last year. Great second place finish. And she's taken some significant victories in her career. Great win in Giro dell'Emilia not so long ago indeed. Likes to race in Italy, does the Spanish rider. Likes to race in Switzerland as well, albeit in a virtual sense. National road and time trial champion of Spain. Second on a stage of Tour de l'Ardèche as well. So Garcia is still about 1 kilometre to go to the finish line, so she's racing for bragging rights really with her teammate on the road, her teammate at Team Lucerne, Marta Bastianelli, currently running in 23rd position. Laura Chacon of Team Basel is going to be the counting rider. So in 22nd position, just over a kilometre to the line, Laura Chacon is going to be, I believe, a counting rider for Team Basel. And that, again, could be... Oh, sorry, apologies. It's Corinne Lebecki's already through and home at this point. So I think the leading positions among the team competition probably already decided, and they've got a little bit of the beads are flying in the abacus to work out exactly who's got the victory on this occasion in team competition. No doubt about the victors amongst the men and women. Jason Osborne clear by almost 2 minutes from Thomas Steger, while Marlon Reusser in 9th position overall for Team Zurich, and what a good 3 minutes up the road, just under 3 minutes clear of Hannah Devet. So dominant performance too for the local favourite, the home superstar Marlon Reusser. Still riders numerous riding in the hall. Others have stopped. Some are just conducting very gentle little cool downs and warm downs, and others are continuing to plough on towards the conclusion. So Mavi Garcia has made it through to the finish line, has completed the event in 22nd position of the 29 riders that took to the start line. Next up, very shortly we'll see Laura Chacon will be home. She's completed indeed. Marta Bastianelli also at this point has made it through to the finish line, and Roland Zuger, 25th of our riders home this evening. Later, just in time for a little bit of a chat with Marlon Reusser as they try to analyse just what an effort that was, and what an enjoyable experience on some level it was. Great satisfaction in just the athletic challenge that they've answered. Nina Derron about to complete her effort. And time to just promenade to the line, I think, for Nina. It's just a case of getting home at this point and maybe trying to save a bit of energy for tomorrow. I think we're all a bit exhausted after that, aren't we? What an effort it's been indeed for all of these riders. Nina Derron is through, has completed for Team Lucerne, still out there, still racing to glory. It's probably worth noting that a couple of riders have suffered with mechanical or electronical issues. Lukasz Tomaszek was one, Zabu Grimet was another we saw stood by the side of the road, so we're not going to see completion from them. Andreas Landolt is still out there. Zuzana Zafarova is ploughing on regardless, the Czech mountain bike rider. Still has work to do to get to the finish. They're preparing, I can tell you, the presentation very shortly of... Yeah, let's go for the winners' ceremony and present some trophies to the winning riders amongst the men and women.
It's time for the victory ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome the winner of the first stage of the Digital Swiss 5 and start with the category Woman. Welcome and congratulations to the Vice Olympic champion representing Switzerland. Congrats, Marlon Reusser. Prizes will be given by Andre Murray representing the host city of Lucerne. Welcome. And as well, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the first stage, together with Marlon Welcome and congrats to the world champion representing Germany, Jason Osborne. And as well, the prizes by the representative of our host city of Lucerne, André Buri, Marlon Reusser and Jason Osborne.
Well, I wonder what's in the goodie bag. They definitely earned their fondue set and their watches and whatever else they have in there. And that's it. What an amazing conclusion to this event. Let's just honour once more these wonderful performances from Jason Osborne and Marlon Reusser. We'll be seeing them in action again tomorrow. Quick reminder, the first of our 2 races is on air at 1300 hours Central European time. We've got Lugano and Lausanne to go tomorrow. The next 2 races in the digital Swiss 5. My name's Declan Quigley. It's been my great pleasure to bring it to you this evening. We'll be back tomorrow, but for now, it's goodbye.